Thank you. Unmute myself here. Good evening. How we doing? Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Frank. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jason, for driving me here at 130 miles an hour up the shoulder of the road in this $150,000 Mercedes. Oh, man. I thought I was in California again. I almost, actually, I have to confess, almost became a praying man on the drive here. But instead, I put my confidence in the engineers at Mercedes and the driving skills of Jason here. I thought I'd start off tonight with a question. If you found out tonight that there is no God, what would you do? Or as somebody might have said, who would you do? That is, would you lose your morality? Would you? Would you give it up? Would you lose your sense of right and wrong? Would you just be adrift without a rudder? Would you turn to a life of crime and sin? If your answer is no, of course not. I would still love my family. I would respect my friends. I would honor my word and my commitments, and I would obey the law. Then you've just assented to my position that you don't need God to be good. If your answer is yes, without God I would hate my family, cheat on my friends, dishonor my word, and disobey the law, then you've just revealed something deeply disturbing about your moral character. In other words, if you lack morals, it's because you lack empathy and character, not God and religion. So let's ask ourselves, what makes something right or wrong? Now, Dr. Turek has just presented the position that's roughly called the divine command theory, or what I call the ask God principle. And the problem is that if God does not decree something immoral, does that make it moral? The seventh commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery, if God had not included that in the 10 commandments, would that make adultery moral or acceptable? If you're not sure about this, ask your partner. They'll let you know. It's the first part of my answer. Thou shalt not rape is not even in the Bible. In fact, quite the contrary. Yahweh orders his warlords to rape all they want. That's one of the benefits of being a warlord if you win. This is in the Old Testament in many places. In any case, how are we to know God's moral commands? Well, we have a book. Well, if you read the book as a moral guidebook, does that mean we should condemn gay marriage and condone slavery? That's what it says we're supposed to do. I doubt anybody here would condone slavery, although I suspect a good number of you are still against gay marriage. But you won't be for long. Within 5 to 10 years, you will all be in favor of same-sex marriage. And you all say, you know, I got that from my religion. You know, God loves everybody and so on. But you're not saying that now. This is an example, contrary to Dr. Turek's, that, in fact, we do change our moral values over time. We shift them according to the changing moral zeitgeist. For example, is female genital mutilation wrong? Is this the best we can do? Yes, but only in Western cultures. We must respect other cultural traditions and not judge them. That's sort of the typical liberal or left response. The right response, perhaps, is yes, it's wrong, but it's hard to say why because it's also not in the Bible. And by the way, if you're not getting your moral values from the Bible, then where are you getting them? I mean, do you talk to God? Do you pray? Do you listen to a small voice within? Does he speak to you? Does he give you some sign? What reliable method do you have for determining moral values, right and wrong, of various issues, stem cell research, euthanasia? Where in the Bible are these things discussed? Back to this problem. Can we say that female genital mutilation is objectively wrong? Yes, we can. Why? Just ask the individual being mutilated and you'll get your answer. If they can't speak, their screams will give you their answer. Is it absolutely, objectively wrong to deface a woman for any reason? Yes, it is. Why? Just ask the individual woman being defaced, and you'll get your answer. So I call this the ask first principle. To find out whether an action is right or wrong, ask first. Who do you ask? The individual moral agent being acted upon. Why the individual? The individual is the primary moral agent because the individual organism is the principal target of natural selection and social evolution. So here's how we build and construct an objective moral system from the bottom up with selfish genes, with evolution, with natural selection. The first moral principle is to help yourself and your kin and your kind. Technically speaking, this is called kin selection. And from there, of course, you're going to be nice to your kin and kind, your immediate family, your parents, your children, your grandparents, your grandchildren, and so forth. The second moral principle is I'll scratch your back if you'll scratch mine. This is called reciprocal altruism. So even if I'm not genetically related to you, it pays for me to be nice to you because when times are tough for me, it would be nice if you were nice to me. And we do this. We evolve this capacity to have moral emotions, to care about other people, to have empathy, to have sympathy, to bond with our fellow social primates. It's what we do. So the survival and flourishing of individual sentient beings is a basis for establishing objective morals. This is where I begin it in the moral arc. And so determining the conditions by which humans best flourish ought to be the goal of a science of morality. Okay, my point is, in my book, is that we've already been doing this for centuries. We've been devising experiments, social experiments, on how best we should live. Democracy is one of these social tools invented to figure out a way better than all the other ways before. Theocracies, autocracies, dictatorships, and so on lead to the loss of freedom and liberty, survival and flourishing. So in other words, female genital mutilation is morally, objectively wrong because it permanently robs individuals of their evolved sexual nature. That's part of their survival and flourishing. So morality is transcendent and objective in the sense of not being just a trait of individual humans, not just being you. It's a trait of the human species. It's what you get by being born human. It comes with the package. It's what our founding fathers meant when they said we have certain inalienable rights. Now, they were deists. When they said by the Creator, they meant in sort of a generic sense. They didn't know about evolution. That was before that theory was devised. But this is what the Creator is. We were created by evolution. Evolution created the moral emotions over millions of years in our Paleolithic ancestors. In other words, if you were just selfish, greedy, hoarding all the resources you possibly could in your little group, because that was the best thing for you to propagate your genes in the next generation, that won't work. That is not the most selfish thing you can do. That is not the best thing you could do for yourself, because everybody else in your group, if they're like you, they'll all be doing the same calculation. How can I exploit this guy to benefit myself? If everybody in the group thinks like that, there is no social group. It disintegrates into violence and chaos. The best thing you could do for yourself is to be nice to other people. Now, mind you, this is not a rational calculation. Nobody's thinking about this. You just do it because it feels good. It feels good to be nice to other people. These are called moral emotions. For example, love, empathy, and affection. These are real, deep emotions. They're not calculations. You don't do this in a cold, calculating way as, I'm going to pretend to love my spouse and hope that I get something back. Although I know some people in bad marriages that do that. But good marriages are based on the fact that you really believe it. And your spouse knows that you know that she really believes it, that he really cares. By the way, I'm often challenged by theists, not by Dr. Turek here, but about love. You know, love is not one of these things that science has anything to say about. How can you say that there's evidence for love? Actually, you know what you call love without evidence? Stalking. Think about that for a second. That's a Tim Minchin line. It's very deep, actually. Love has to do with give and take and taking care of each other. That's the best thing you can do. Now, unfortunately, we evolved other characteristics of our nature that are not so good. For example, sometimes people try to take advantage of us. And therefore, we evolved other emotions like anger and revenge that leads us to fight back and defend ourselves against predators and bullies. We evolved the emotion of fear that causes us to pull back and retreat and escape from risks. We evolved the emotion of disgust that directs us to push out, eject, and expel that which is bad for us, such as bodily excreta and other disease vectors. One of the things that people like Hitler do is they glom on to the negative moral emotions and attach them to the people that they don't like. This is a collectivist type of thinking. This is why individualist thinking is the right way to go, because the body counts can rack up very quickly if you think that your group is better than some other group. Religion is not the only force that does that. Ideologies do that as well. Jealousy leads to bait guarding, and so on. In other words, these are emotions that evolved as proxies for what's good for you as an individual. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do the calculating. You just feel hungry, or you feel love, or you feel affection, or you feel fear, you feel anger, and the emotion is what changes your behavior, causes you to act in a certain way. Therefore, most of the time, most of us are nice to one another. Occasionally, people try to free ride the system, bully the system, and so forth, and therefore it's good to stand up and fight for yourself. Let me give you some examples of this. I'm going to show you a short video clip here. It's just 20 seconds long. I'm not sure where this is. It's in Europe somewhere, I think. It's on a train platform. I found this little video clip when I got tired watching cat videos. And so what you're going to see here is a conflict between two moral emotions. That revenge, anger, to strike back, to hurt somebody that I love or I'm connected to. And then the affection, bonding, helping emotions. What you'll see is these three are talking. All of a sudden, this guy reaches out and pushes this woman backwards. She stumbles and falls. He reaches out and tries to grab her and misses, and into the train pit she goes. He starts to go like he's going to rescue her, got to help. There might be a train coming. And all of a sudden, he's just overcome with emotion. That bastard. And he turns around and just cold cocks this guy. And it's a beauty, roundhouse right out of Hollywood. Bam! Snaps his head back. Bam! Snaps him again. And then he staggers around for a moment like, hey, there was something else I was supposed to do. What was it? Oh, yeah, I got to help my friend. He reaches down, grabs her, pulls her up, says something to her like, are you okay? And she says, yeah. And then he immediately goes after this guy who's now made a quick escape out the door so he doesn't get hurt anymore. And then also while you're watching that, watch this guy. He's like an EMT of some sort. And he sees what happens. He comes running down the platform. You'd think he would reach in to grab her, to help her. She's lying on the track. Oh, no. As soon as he sees this guy take off, you can see what he does. All right, so here we go. All that in 20 seconds. There's something I was supposed to do. Oh, yeah. Watch this guy. Watch this guy. Are you all right? And get this guy. All right, just in case my other video is not working in that direction, the second one I'm going to show you now. Okay, so I have a whole line of arguments to show that these moral emotions, this sense of right and wrong and justice and fairness is evolved. It's innate. It's part of our genetic package. We're born with it. And not only do you see it in our fellow adults, you see it in children, infants, you see it in primates, you see it in tiny little capuchin monkeys whose brains are even smaller than most politicians' brains. And I didn't pick a party, sorry. And so this is a little piece of a video from an experiment by Frans de Waal, the great primatologist, who has trained these tiny little brain capuchin monkeys, separated from us by about 20 million years. So this is how far back the moral emotions go. They have been trained to swap a little pebble for a piece of food. In this case, he's going to get a slice of cucumber here. They like cucumber, it's really good, so he does that, and he eats his cucumber, he's happy about it. Then this one does the same thing, but he gets a grape. You can't see the grapes here, but you'll see it in a second. And they really like grapes more than cucumbers because, you know, who doesn't? And they taste sweet and so on. And this one sees that this one gets the grape, so he's very excited, like, oh boy, I'm going to get my grape. So he grabs the pebble, gives it to her, and she gives him a cucumber, and you'll see how he feels about that. Getting grape, and you will see what happens. So she gives a rock to us, that's the task. And we give her a piece of cucumber, and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us. And that's what she does. And she gets a grape. And she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber. She tests the rock now against the wall. She needs to give it to us. And she gets cucumber again. Now, these little guys don't have language. They can't express how upset that they are. But you can see he's pissed. I mean, this was an unfair exchange. It was an injustice. And that's the proper response to an injustice, is you express anger. You better not do that again. Not cool. And that's how you correct the bad behavior of your fellow group members. You let them know that's not cool. That's what we have a justice system for. That's why it evolved, because we have these deeper emotions. Okay, now let's consider a couple of current events here. The current rights revolution we're undergoing today. I mentioned same-sex marriage before. I won't ask for a show of hands, but you know, I could tell, I know from the data that most conservative Christians are against it. I'd like you to meet my friends. This is Heiko and Jürgen. They're a married couple in Germany. My wife is from Cologne. They live in Bonn nearby, and I've gotten to know them quite well. They're one of the happiest married couples, better than most straight couples I know, but that's irrelevant. They have the same rights and freedoms to do what they want as I do, as they should. Unfortunately, there's one organization in the world, religion, that doesn't seem to think so. The same-sex marriage revolution is being primarily driven by the nuns, the religiously non-affiliated secularists. It's being pulled up by the rear by the white evangelical Protestants, black Protestants, white mainline Protestants, and Catholics. As of 2012, that is the people most against it. But as I said, this is all going to end this year. The Supreme Court's going to vote on a particular case. By the end of this year, all states, or pretty much all states, will legalize same-sex marriage. And by 2020, 2025, all of us will look back at 2015 and the same-sex marriage like you and I now look back at the interracial marriage debate of the 1960s. You remember the interracial marriage debate? Yeah, I don't either. What? Blacks and whites should not be allowed to marry? What? That was a thing in America? Yes, it was a thing. That's an example of changing moral values, moving more and more toward individual autonomy and rights, and away from tradition and religion. By the way, those of you who oppose both gay marriage and pot legalization, I found a theological passage that refutes this. Because in Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13, it says, if a man lies with another man, he must be stoned. I can read the Bible too, you know. I was once a Christian. I read both books. Let's take another current event, ISIS and violent religion. Actually, I can come back. Is that my...
I'm going to give you an extra minute.
Okay, extra minute.
Give more than that.
I'll just make this final point. The idea of beheading people and burning them alive is abhorrent to us, as it should be. That is objectively wrong. And yet, it wasn't that long ago that Christians did this very thing. Here's from an illuminated 12th century Bible of two Jews kneeling about to be beheaded for killing Jesus, who looks on approvingly from above. Beheading Jews because they killed Christ. This is just an idiotic idea. First of all, Jesus was Jewish. Second of all, he had to die. If you believe this, he had to die to save you from your sins. It was all already orchestrated ahead of time by God. So whoever killed him should be thanked for doing it. You should thank Judas. He should be your hero. He was just doing what he was supposed to do. But in any case, the idea of burning people alive and beheading them and so on is just a bad idea. I call this the witch theory of causality. My final point here is that if you believe that women cavorting with demons in the middle of the night is the cause of crop failures, disease, the plague, shipwrecks, and accidents, then you're either insane or you lived 500 years ago in European Christendom, which everybody believed. What happened to that? Enlightenment, humanism, and the scientific revolution. That is, instead of moralizing about evil and basing our moral values on superstitions and a book written for Iron Age people, we should use science and reason to solve our social problems and our moral problems. And that's what I wrote this book for. Thank you.
We now come to our cross-examination period, and each of our participants will have 15 minutes to ask questions of his colleague, and obviously then we will switch who will be asking questions and who will be answering questions. We'll begin again with Frank Turek for 15 minutes.
Stand by. I can call you Michael, right, Michael? Please?
I'm sorry?
Can I call you Michael?
Oh, of course.
Okay, good.
That's my name.
Yes, I know. You were just talking about how these morals have evolved, and evolution gave us this moral sense. Well, that means evolution gave Hitler his moral sense, too. Why is his moral sense worse than, say, your moral sense?
First of all, I outlined, that the survival and flourishing of individual sentient beings, by the way, I say sentient beings because it's not just humans, primates and so forth should have some of these rights to not be tortured and suffer. But it's wrong because the extermination of so many people, the removal of their rights. It's an example of collectivist thought run amok.
But why is that wrong?
It's wrong because each of us deeply wants to survive and flourish. It's part of our genome. It's part of who we are. You just have to ask anybody, and they will tell you, yes, I would prefer that.
Oh, I know that's true. That's true. And Stalin preferred to kill a whole bunch of people so he could get what he wanted. Why was that wrong if there's no God?
Because, again, a single individual driving a genocide may benefit the individual, but it sacrifices all the individuals of the group.
What's wrong with that?
It's wrong because the individuals themselves object to it, and the only way you can make that happen is through force and violence.
But Stalin objected to those people living. So what's the problem?
Because we don't care about Stalin's individual moral attitudes toward millions of people that he wants to kill. We care about the millions of people.
We care, but what if he doesn't? Why is his opinion about what he should do to his people?
Psychopaths like Stalin, who have no moral sense, do not dictate the long arc of the moral universe that's moving more and more toward individuals having autonomy.
But why is that good that individuals have autonomy? By what standard?
By the standard that evolution granted us the right.
But evolution granted us Hitler.
The same you quoted from the founding fathers. Created by who? Inalienable rights.
By who?
Yeah, by evolution.
Is that what the Declaration of Independence says? Evolution?
Well, okay, so
endowed by our evolution?
Listen, by creator, I mean evolution.
Our founding fathers, you say, didn't know about evolution. So why are you putting words in their mouth? They said that our rights are endowed on us by God, our Creator.
No. That's not what they said. Okay, first of all, Thomas Jefferson, who wrote those words, was not a Christian. He was a deist at best, and he basically purged the Bible of all supernatural, miraculous, the Jefferson Bible. And so his idea of creation, the Creator, is just wherever we came from. We don't know. He certainly did not mean Yahweh, the creator of the Bible, allegedly. He did not mean that God. He just meant wherever we came from, we are given these rights by dint of being human.
First of all, the Declaration of Independence is not a deistic document. You have objective moral values coming from a creator. You have divine providence and a day of judgment. What deist believes in divine providence and a day of judgment?
Okay, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, these are secular documents. It doesn't matter what religion you are. These are the values that we hold dear in America. That's the way it is. We don't care if you're an atheist, a deist, a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian. That's what we believe in here. Period.
Okay, good. Let's say you're right about that, Michael, that they channeled evolution before they wrote the document.
No, I'm just saying that they used the word creator in a very generic sense.
In a theistic sense. I agree with you. It didn't have to be Yahweh, but it was a theistic God. Okay? That's what a creator is. It's not evolution. But
let's not read too much into it. It's just endowed by whatever.
Our creator.
The point is.
That's what the words say.
But the point is the inalienable rights, not the creator part. It's the inalienable rights part. The Declaration has to do with rights, not where we came from. That's not what it's about.
Okay, all right. But if that's the case, on what basis did we have to judge the Nazis as immoral if these are just our values and they have their values?
Because the people who were being oppressed, in particular the Jews, stood up and said, we're not going to put up with this anymore. We want this stopped. And other groups then came to their rescue. Same thing with slavery. Same thing with women's rights. It was all the Christians who objected to the slavery abolitionists. It was Christians who objected to women's rights and the women's in the franchise. It is Christians who object to same-sex marriage. I'm telling you, none of you endorse slavery anymore, although you would have 200 years ago. None of you endorse the idea of taking the vote away from women, but you would have a century ago. And now you object to same-sex marriage, but you won't. In another 5 to 10 years, you'll all be on my side on this one. Mark my words.
Michael,
I will be back here.
Michael, let's for the sake of argument say that same-sex marriage is a good thing, right?
I am. It is a good thing.
You're saying it's better than what we have now. By what standard is it better? How is it a right if there is no God? If there's no God, everything's a matter of opinion.
Ask the people who are in love and want to get married. They will tell you.
That's subjective, Michael. That's
not
objective.
No, it's not subjective. They will say, damn it, I want to be treated the same way as you. And I will throw the cucumber back at you if you don't give me the same rights.
Okay.
That's how we know it's true.
But, Michael, first of all, I mean, we could talk about same-sex marriage. I have a book on it, but that's going to take us down a rabbit trail.
You're not against it, are you?
Of course.
You would look at my friends Heiko and Jürgen.
Yes, of course,
and you
Michael.
would say, what would you say to them?
But, Michael, how do we adjudicate? We have a disagreement. How do we adjudicate over our two moral precepts? You say that same-sex couples have a moral right to wed one another, and I say that marriage is between a man and a woman. How do we adjudicate between those two ideas if there's nobody above us to adjudicate?
We do it in America by democracy, by vote.
Oh, so whoever votes. So if we vote to murder all the gays, then that's okay.
Nope, because the long arc of the moral universe is we're moving more and more toward more freedoms and more liberty for more people.
So it's not democracy then.
And in fact, what we're doing is fighting against your conservative restrictions to denying people the rights that they should have. It's you guys holding back. It's you we're fighting against.
Michael, you're assuming rights that your worldview can't afford you. Where do rights come from if there's no God?
I just told you where they came from. We get them by being human. We're born. Inalienable rights.
Which human,
Mother
Teresa or Hitler?
I'm sorry, what?
Which human, Mother Teresa or Hitler, gets to decide?
Neither one of them gets to decide.
There's got to be somebody above us then.
No. In any case, even if there is somebody above us, okay, do you think that God tells you personally what you should think about, say, stem cell research, or how do you know? How do you?
It's not your time yet, but
Oh, okay, all right.
okay.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to answer that. I'm happy to answer that question. Let me ask you this, because I haven't been able to ask a learned man like yourself this question, and I say that with all respect because Michael is at the top of his game on this issue. If your brain evolved by unintelligent, unguided processes, and all your thoughts are completely dictated by the laws of physics, then why should we trust any of your thoughts, including the thoughts that you're stating right here, right now?
Okay, first of all, it's not unguided. Natural selection is not unguided. It's not chance, it's not random. It's very much directed towards certain goals.
By who?
By natural selection, by survival, the passing on of the genes. There's no overseer to
Well, if
the
there's
thing.
no overseer, you see, the Nazis wanted to survive, and they didn't want the Jews to survive, so who's to adjudicate between those two?
Okay, we do as a species. We decide.
Which one of us decides?
Well, look, your team didn't help much on this matter. It took a secular democracy to stand up and fight against the Nazis. That's what it took, based on the idea that they're taking the rights away from Jews and other people, homosexuals, gypsies, and so on. By the time that happened, okay, the history of civilization, there were lots of Hitlers and lots of genocides like that, not as big because there weren't as many people. But what we've done over the course of history is stop those people. We've stopped them from doing this, not completely, but the rates of genocide are way down in the last 3/4 of a century.
By the way, that is an excellent point in your book, and I agree with you on that.
So
But
there is a moral arc.
the question is, why is genocide bad? If
Yeah,
there's
why
no
is it
God?
bad? Well, ask the people who are going to be killed, and they will tell you.
But the people who are doing the killing love it. So who's to adjudicate?
The people who are, okay. Our concern is the people that are going to suffer or die. That is our moral
Why
basis.
is suffering wrong? Who said?
Do you like to suffer and die?
Oh, no, I don't like it, but there's a lot of things I don't like that are true. I don't like telling the truth when it's going to hurt me, but I tell it anyway.
Show me a place anywhere, short of religious fanatics who want to die and get their 72 virgins, of people that want to die, that want to suffer, that would prefer to live in a society that was rife with crime and murder and rape and genocide, not to mention disease and so on.
But Michael,
no one likes
that's
to
all
live
just
like
preference. That's what they prefer. The question is, are their preferences grounded in something beyond themselves
Yes,
that make it so
yes.
what is it grounded
Yes,
in?
it's grounded
a biological code? How does that have the authority
Yes,
to
of
tell you?
course, a biological
How does that
code.
have the
Of
authority to tell you what
course.
to do?
Look, anybody that, going back billions of years, any organism that does not want to survive and flourish will not survive and flourish. They won't reproduce. They won't.
So survival
the
is.
descendants.
But Michael, if survival is our guide, then the Nazis were doing just what they wanted to do to survive. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with it is because the individuals that are dying and suffering at their hands are our moral concern, not the people in power, the people that are powerless and being. That's our moral concern.
Well, you see, but you're stealing from God to argue against him, Michael. You're granting. You're granting human beings.
Listen, the ISIS killers sound just like you. They say, we know what's right and wrong. We have absolute.
Michael,
God told us to do this.
Michael, you say you know what's right and wrong.
Where did they get this? How do you know that they're wrong? And maybe the ISIS is right and you're wrong.
You just gave the Michael
Which
Shermer.
God is the one?
You just gave the Michael Shermer 10 Commandments. Ask first principle, help self, then kin and kind, then reciprocal altruism, etc. These are your commandments. Why should we obey yours? Who are you?
I'll tell you why. There's nothing I wrote in this book, in those modified 10 Commandments, that no thinking person would object to. They wouldn't. You would all agree on these things that I wrote. There's nothing special about them. They're the kinds of things any rational person would come up with. Like, be nice to your fellow people. Try to make other people happy. Try to do the right thing. There's nothing particularly controversial about
Michael,
that.
let me...
Any reasoning being would come up with something like that, which is what we've been doing for 500 years and overthrowing the chains of tradition and religion and ideology to say these were all bad ideas. Let's try something new like inalienable rights of individuals.
Michael, how can we even reason if we're just molecules in motion? If we're just moist robots, why should anybody believe what I say or you say if every thought I have is the result of a previous natural cause over which I have no control, and the same for you?
Well, I don't know why you can't think of any reasons, but as a thinking being, I can think of lots of reasons why. This is what we do. This is what all sentient beings do, and the more cortical material they have, the more cognitive processes they can do.
Right, but
reasoning is a basic process of survival. You have to be able to infer cause and effect relationships in the environment. It begins with very simple cause and effect relationships, and you build and build on to more complex
Exactly,
ideas.
but that means natural selection builds us towards survival, not truth. So
not necessarily. No, not necessarily. This is an interesting debate on that. But you have to have some relationship to reality, or else you will not be able to infer cause and effect, and you will be prey rather than predator.
Michael, you're a materialist, so what is the chemical composition of justice?
Okay, the capuchin monkey who gets pissed and throws it. That is
No,
a
I mean
perfect
the
example.
molecular composition.
He has no rational calculation. He can't say this was unfair, but you could see that that is the right response to an unfair, unjust social exchange.
Right, what is justice? What is this value known as justice? What is it made of?
When two people do the same amount of effort and one gets more than the other, that's unfair.
That's an example of injustice, but what is the value of justice? What's it made of chemically?
Okay, you're asking the wrong question.
Of course I am, because materialism's false. That's why.
Justice is a concept that we came up with.
Materialism
Justice is reflected in the behavior of capuchin monkeys or people on train platforms. The expression of that is our innate sense of right and wrong.
Okay, so
it comes with the territory.
On your worldview, then a monkey's mind is just like our mind, so why should we trust our mind?
Well, it's scaled down from ours, or ours are scaled up from it. So ours are, we could put language to it. We can say that was unjust. We can set up a justice system with rules and write them down. The monkeys can't do that. But they can certainly express themselves. So there's a logic. There's an evolutionary logic to the interaction between sentient beings in a group. You can't just roll over and let people take advantage of you, or fellow monkeys take advantage. You have to fight back. And then you should also be nice about it. That's where these moral emotions come from.
Okay, time. I'm going to have to lay down my own commandment. Please keep your applause, hold your applause until at the end of each session, because when you applaud, you're actually cutting into the time of the debaters, and as typical, you're actually cutting into the time of your favorite debater if you're applauding what he's saying. So now we're going to hear for 15 minutes questions from Michael Shermer for Dr. Frank Turek.
Okay. So I mentioned ISIS, it's current, it's in the news. They are just as confident, as enthusiastic about their beliefs as you are. They believe in the same God as you guys.
No, they don't.
They say,
no, they don't.
Allah.
No.
But it's the monotheistic God.
No, Michael,
Islam is a religion it's a monotheistic religion.
Michael, you ask any Muslim scholar and
How?
any Christian scholar, if they were in here right now, is Allah and Yahweh the same? Both of them would say no, because Allah is arbitrary and Yahweh's triune.
But that's not what they would say.
Yes, they would.
You would say this. But moderate moderate Muslims, they say they believe in the same God as you.
No, they don't.
Believe.
They don't.
And furthermore, they're just as, but regardless, this is not my point. They believe in a God of some kind. How can any of us that are neither Muslim or Christian tell which God is the right one?
Which God is the right one? You
Yeah.
use the evidence. You get a book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist.
Well, I'm glad you wrote the sequel to the Bible, but why should we believe that?
Well,
I mean, what evidence? What are you talking about evidence? Are you talking about linguistic evidence?
Come tomorrow night. All right, if you give me some time, I'll go through some of it right now.
In other words, to an outsider, I can see that Christianity and Judaism has become much more peaceful than they used to be. They used to, as I pointed out, behead people, burn people to death, and so on. They don't do that anymore. Why not? Because they went through the Enlightenment. Islam has not gone through an Enlightenment yet. Hasn't even gone through a Reformation yet. Okay, so we can track historically the difference. But theologically, as an outsider, I can't see any difference. You're enthusiastic, they're enthusiastic. The biggest difference, of course, is one is violent and the other one is not violent. And I'm glad to endorse Christianity over Islam in that sense. Although most Muslims would say, hey, that's not fair, that's not cool. Most of us are nonviolent and peaceful, so stop being an Islamophobe. So Again, this back and forth, back
Michael,
and forth.
Questions,
How can
questions.
we see, what's the difference?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of differences between the Muslim God and the Christian God, but this may surprise you. I don't think you need the Bible or the Quran to know what's right or wrong. In fact, the Bible teaches that. In Romans chapter 2, it says the Gentiles who do not have the law written on their hearts. When Thomas Jefferson started the nation, he borrowed from John Locke, as you point out wisely in your book, who borrowed from Hooker, who ultimately got it from the Apostle Paul, because it's written on our hearts anyway. You don't need the Bible to know basic right and wrong. Everybody knows basic right and wrong already.
Okay, in the 16th, 17th, 18th, and throughout most of the 19th century, most Christians endorsed slavery. Today, none would. So the arguments they made are just like yours. It's objectively correct, it's right, it's good for blacks, it says so in the Bible, it's, and so on. They made all these arguments that nobody would make today. Something dramatic happened. Why do you think slavery is wrong now, and why was it okay back 2 centuries ago? What happened biblically or theologically, or did God have a new revelation to somebody and say, you know what, that was a bad idea?
Yes. In fact, if you just give me just 1 second here. Stand by for Victor's Victor.
In other words, the creator of the universe wrote a book.
Yeah.
And he didn't even get it right on slavery, much less women's rights.
Actually, he did.
Much less women's rights, gay rights.
Can you give me the...
any other rights.
Hey,
yeah, go ahead.
Chris, can you give me the PowerPoint here? First of all, Old Testament slavery was not race-based forced servitude. It was voluntary means of working off debt or keeping captives from mustering a rebellion. Secondly, slave trading is condemned in the Bible, both in the Old and the New Testaments. Thirdly, the Bible teaches that all men are made in the image of God. Slave and master are equally human, protected, and one in Christ. That's throughout both Old and New Testaments. Fourthly, Jesus came to set the captives free. And fifth, the Bible's main goal is spiritual redemption, not social reform. The Old Testament was not ideal. It was forward-looking to a better testament, which is the New.
Nobody made that argument before. Christians justified slavery using the Old Testament. My point is, you can't be getting your morals from the Bible. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing you don't. It is not a good book. It is not. It is filled with embarrassingly bad commands that nobody today would obey. So what you've just seen is a spin doctoring of Scripture. Oh, they don't really mean slaves. They mean housekeepers. They were well kept. Baloney. That is not the argument that slave holders held 2 centuries ago.
Michael,
what happened?
Michael, let me agree with you that many people have misinterpreted the text, but because people misinterpret
why should you be the final arbiter when 2 centuries ago the leading theologians disagreed with you? Why are you right?
People have misinterpreted all sorts of different scriptures over the years.
Why is your interpretation now correct? What makes you right now? How do you know you're right now? 2 centuries from now, we'd be doing a completely different
Michael,
debate.
how do you know right now gay marriage is a good thing? Evolution can change. Pretty soon it won't be a good thing.
I can ask my gay friends, how do you feel about it? And they'll tell me, I want the same rights as you. Okay. And that's right. That's fair. That's just. That's moral, regardless of what a 4,000-year-old scripture written for an Iron Age farmer says. That's backwards. It's archaic.
Every living human being in America has the same right to marry a person of the opposite sex. That right is universal to everybody.
They have the right to marry the person they're in love with.
But that's not the purpose for marriage in a society. The purpose of marriage is
the problem with religion.
Michael,
it's backwards.
Michael, the reason the government supports marriage is to perpetuate and stabilize society.
Okay, that's not a problem anymore.
It is not to recognize. It's not to recognize romantic love. That's not the reason for it. I mean, I love my son, but I'm not going to marry him, and the government isn't going to recognize that. And
really? That's your counter-argument? You would look to my friends in the eye and say, you do not have the same rights as I have.
They do, Michael. Everyone has the same rights.
I might marry my son. If you two guys in love or you two women in love, I'm not going to grant you the same rights because I might run off and marry my son. Would you actually do that?
Michael, they have this. Everyone has the same rights. Every person in America can marry somebody of the opposite sex. True or false?
People do not.
True
gays
or false?
don't want to marry somebody from the opposite sex.
Well,
it's not in their nature.
Look,
they don't want to.
If I want to marry 10 women, should I be able to?
Okay, where is this a problem? Where are people wanting to marry sheep and 10 women and so on? Where is this a problem? Where is this happening?
But Michael, you are...
Gay couples want to get married. They're in love. What's wrong with that? Where's the Christian charity? Where is your Christian charity?
Michael...
I'm telling you right now, you mark my words, in 5 to 10 years you will all agree with me. And you'll say, God loves all people. God loves gays.
Questions, please.
And then what you'll do is you'll say that Episcopalian minister who married couples, that was our guy. You watch. I'm right.
Questions,
you were on the
please.
wrong side of history on this one, folks. You are. You were on the slavery side 2 centuries ago.
Questions,
you were on the
please.
against women side a century ago. Now you're against gays, and you will change your mind. You will.
Dr. Shermer, please, questions, questions for your
The question
opponent.
do you finally now agree with me? Would you tell my friends they don't have the right to get married?
Michael, for an evolved primate, you're doing a lot of moralizing over there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When you have friends that are in love and they got married because it's legal in Germany,
Michael,
I would not tell them they don't have the same rights.
Michael, if you want to argue from anecdotes, I can do just the same because a friend of mine grew up right next to me. He got involved in the homosexual lifestyle. Everybody encouraged him to do it. We buried him at the age of 36.
What is the homosexual lifestyle? What is that? What do you think that is?
We're before a conservative audience here, an adult audience. I'm not going to go into that.
What you're talking about here is just like the black lifestyle or the Jewish lifestyle. It's the same bigotry.
Michael!
It's ugly bigotry. Stop saying these things about gay people.
Michael!
They're not true.
Michael!
It's not true. They don't want to make you gay. Gay life. And do you actually think you could become gay if you're straight? Just because you met a gay person?
Questions,
Seriously?
please. Questions, please.
Stop the bigotry. When are you going to stop the bigotry against gays?
Michael,
that's my question.
Michael, race is not a behavior. Sexuality is a behavior.
This is what people used to argue about blacks. There's a black lifestyle. There's a Jewish lifestyle.
Michael,
these are the arguments that used to be made that nobody would make today.
I've met many former homosexuals. I've never met an African American, a former African American. Never.
Listen, people used to argue that women were too emotional and unstable to run companies and run countries. That was wrong. That was a bad idea. It turns out that's false. This is how our moral values change. Most of them, we debunk these idiotic ideas we hold about other people. That's what we're going through right now.
Questions, please. We have 5 minutes.
Well, I think I formed my question in the form of an answer, like Jeopardy. All right. So, if it's not in the Bible, obviously you can't do research about it. So, when you personally face a moral conundrum, whatever it is, with your family, friends, or business, or whatever, how do you decide?
Probably the same way you do. I mean, I may look at the Bible if it's going to give me some moral insight in a particular regard. But my duty is to God first, and to people second, and to things third.
Okay, the first part, certainly the people, yes. The first part, do you pray about it?
Sure, sometimes.
Okay, and then what comes back? I mean, do you, like a still small voice within, or a thought, a feeling?
No, I'm not a very mystical person, Michael, and when people come to me and they say, God told me this, I get a little concerned. But my point is that the will of God is never contrary to the word of God. So if somebody comes to me and says, God told me to leave my wife, I go, that wasn't God.
Well, okay, but if a woman came to you and said, you know, my husband is beating me and I'm afraid he's going to kill me and God told me to leave him, you wouldn't say, no, that's not God.
Well,
you would make a decision based on the context.
Yeah, now you're bringing some different information into it, and now I would say, yes, we need to protect you.
It's all information. If your friend goes, well, I'm just tired and bored of marriage, then yeah, of course you go, hey, come on, dude, you know, that's not cool.
That's right.
If it's, you know, he's going to kill me, yeah, you should leave him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Agreed.
It's all people. There's no God in there. It's all people in context.
Right, but in order to adjudicate between different moral ideas, between our society and, say, the Nazi society, there needs to be something beyond both societies that is the best standard that one society is closer to than the other, correct?
Okay, but how do you know, even if that's true, there's some outside, so how do you get to it?
Mike, I don't know why you're asking that question, because you already know basic right and wrong. So why are you asking the question, how do you know that torturing babies for fun is... You know it, I know it. And secondly, you should be the one asking yourself that question, because if you're just a moist robot, a molecular machine, why should you believe anything you think?
The power of electric meat, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, no, really, honestly, Michael, I want to know. I honestly want to know.
I get to ask you a question.
Oh, sure.
Okay. If there's an outside source up there, how do you access it? I mean, this is a serious question, not a mystical thing, but like through prayer, the still small voice, you have a sense.
Reading the Bible, meditation. I get advice from other people who are further down the road than I am, and look. I'm going to. Many people in here will disagree with me. I've never had God say a word to me. Never had an audible voice. None of that. Maybe I'm just not that kind of person, but. God has given us creation, conscience. I have a conscience. We all have a conscience. And I think he's given us Christ through his word. When you have creation, conscience, and Christ, you have some objective rules for living, and you have a purpose for life. There's no purpose in atheism, so how can there be right or wrong?
Okay,
there's no direction
First of all, there's no such thing as atheism as a thing. It's just we don't believe in God. End of story. What do you believe in? I believe in rights. I believe in freedoms and liberty and justice, and so I believe in all sorts of things.
And all those things you have to steal from a theistic worldview to...
No. These come from the Enlightenment. These come from secular Enlightenment philosophers who created in the late 18th century the idea of rights, that we're born with rights. We get them as human. That does not come from the Bible. It comes from people like Jefferson and Locke and Hume and Kant and so on. These are secular Enlightenment philosophers.
Michael, Kant was a believer.
Well, okay. These sort of deistic, but they're not getting it from the Bible.
You have a minute to ask questions.
Okay, so it's almost like, you're familiar with Mormonism, where, Joseph Smith got a revelation from God just about the time he started this affair with this woman down the street. Okay, that polygamy was okay. And then that spread for a while, and that was the thing. And then when Utah wanted to become a state in 1896, they suddenly got a new revelation from God saying, you know what, this polygamy thing, bad idea. And they had the same kind of revelations about blacks being in the priesthood in the 1970s when they collided with the civil rights revolution. This is what happens when religions collide with changing moral values. They change. Are you going to change?
I will change if I misunderstand something, of course, but I don't think Mormonism is true because there's no evidence that it's true. Golden plates are not a miracle. I can make golden plates in my garage.
Well, I think that's how it happened.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
Our time is up.